Good morning and welcome to another edition of Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swenson. Our Town always brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. Later on in the program, we'll get our monthly check-in with the city manager of Decorah, Mr. Travis Goedken. We will also have a discussion with Mason Berns. He's the head wrestling coach at Waukon, the Waukon Wrestling Club, having a fundraiser coming up this Saturday night at the Waukon Banquet Center. Raffle prizes, food, etc. Good times had by all about giving kids some more opportunities through the great sport of wrestling, and Mason Berns will talk to us about that. The first things first this morning, this show each and every week is brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust, and we've got two folks from Decorah Bank and Trust to join us this morning, Steffen as well as Maureen Yahr. They will talk to us about fraud prevention. That interesting conversation is going to kick off the program. It's brought to you by Our Town. It's brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. This is Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. We are talking about fraud prevention this morning with a couple of experts on the subject from Decorah Bank and Trust, Steffen and Maureen Yahr, and we'll talk about an important issue that we're seeing quite a bit, and we're seeing it more in the news nowadays. Maureen, we'll start with you. Why is it important to have these discussions and to create this awareness?
It is on scams and fraud are majorly on an uptick. If you read anything from the government and all of the things that go out, like 200% that it's gone up in certain areas. We see it at the bank every single day, very, very much so. And we have releases from the police officers and that will indicate that same thing. And so the best thing to do is we've got to get information out to all of you.
In Dallas, Maureen mentioned the increase in fraud that we are seeing. Is part of the increase in reported frauds the awareness that has been created through conversations like this and through awareness raised through law enforcement?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, to what Maureen was saying, we're really heightening our education piece, which obviously I think a lot of people are embarrassed a lot of times to communicate that. And I think now that's become more globally aware that people, I think, are reporting more often, which is great. Pulling in your local law enforcement, financial institutions, knowing where your resources are, I think is extremely important. And, obviously that's been a piece to, fraud's always been there. But like anything, it's ever changing, it's always growing. And so, we're just doing our part to create awareness. We've hosted some fraud seminars recently here in Decorah. Our Cresco Partnering Bank is going to has one upcoming May 15th. Or 17th, sorry, at 2:00 that we invite people to, and we plan to host more. And it's really just creating the awareness to get people to know that it's okay and it happens to everybody. So yeah, report it. Reach out to your law enforcement and financial institutions.
Maureen, what type of frauds are you seeing?
We see all sorts of things. So some of them that we've had is the grandparent scam, where somebody calls and says, it's really crackly and it's hard to hear. And it's like, Grandma, I'm in, Mexico and I'm in jail. You need to send me, money to get me out. Don't tell Mom and Dad, and all of those things. And we've had customers come in and they are so upset and basically crying. And we're going, are you sure that's your grandchild? And we're like, no, you should call their parents. Are they? And not most of the time, all the time, they are the grandchild is fine and there's nothing wrong, but somehow they know who your grandchild is. They heard you talking at coffee and you heard them say something about Will or whatever, and you want to make sure, you're going to take care of them. So that's a big one.
I'll interject on that real quick, too, Megs. The big thing is the power of social media, but can also be a hindrance. One of the big things is it's people put their lives out there, and fraudsters use that to their advantage. So to Maureen's point, maybe their granddaughter was in Mexico because they're sharing pictures, doing all this online. Well, that's easy to find. I mean, I can Google my name now and find more stuff than I want to know, even about myself. And so, fraudsters leverage that. It's not hard. It's very public. Our lives are very much in the forefront, and they leverage that. And so they use that, and it seems very convincing. We also say fraudsters are probably the best salespeople out there. They're very convincing.
They're professionals.
Yeah.
This is what they do for a living. And so they're good at it.
And I'd imagine as time goes by, they've just been getting more and more creative, Dallas. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's still the staples, lottery scams and some of that, the IRS scams. But yeah, it's pretty crazy how lucrative they can be. And again, I think a lot of it is just technology nowadays is a great thing, but it's leveraged us and opens us to a lot of different angles that, is, and the other piece I'll tie into that is payment processing is so much faster nowadays. People want their money 10 minutes ago, where there's not that gap where you could stop things. You can send money through P2P services, which is your PayPals, Venmos. You can leverage immediate access to money, where if it goes out, the faster it goes out, the harder it is to get it back, and so rightfully so, the fraudsters leverage that. And, that's why we're seeing, these different angles versus the traditional formats that, we historically know of.
Right.
And Maureen, if you feel you've been victimized, what should you do?
I would say if you feel first off, because it's usually dealing with money, call your bank immediately, because there's time frames that sometimes we can get money back right away. We will lock down your account for just a little while. We'll close your account, open a new one. We'll shut down your debit card, all sorts of things like that. Lock down your online banking, some things just so that they can't get in there. Because, well, one of the things that we talk about is was the technology one, where people get in and you're on your computer, and all of a sudden a Microsoft pop-up comes on and it says, something about remote. I need to remote in because there's an update or there's something, or call me at this number and we're going to fix this and do this update for you. And then they get in there, and then somehow, because they're salesmen, they tell you to log on to your online banking. And then they're seeing that the right things are in your online banking. Well, what they're doing is getting your password and everything else so that they can go into your online banking. And so it's those things are, and it's very easy. I will tell you, anybody of any education level, any type of person can be scammed and has been scammed. Right. So don't feel bad about it. You're one of a million. Just know to get on that phone to it's a bazillion probably. It's more like it. Get on the phone, talk to your bank, call the police department. They work with this all the time and are very, very helpful. Yeah. Sheriff's department too. The law enforcement is wonderful, and we work hand in hand with them. Perfect. So.
And I know you guys, as a financial institution, as a guy that still banks with you guys, I know I've been places where I probably spent a little more money than I should have at certain places, and my card has been shut down. Dallas, talk about what you do as an institution and some red flags that you guys have to prevent possible fraud, because like in my case, it wasn't fraud, but I was glad that you guys were looking out for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you see it that way, Darren. And some people do get frustrated with that because there has gotten to be a lot of layers of protection in there. And again, it is for your protection. Like you said, Darren, most of the times it is legitimate and fine, and that's great. But for instance, we have a number of different layers. Our debit cards, we have a company we work through called Shazam. They're a fraud monitoring company where you may receive outreach from them. And honestly, we have people that think that's fraudulent. And honestly, that's great that you're questioning, something that's asking or tied to your financial institution. But yeah, there's algorithms way beyond my knowledge of tracking things. But yeah, if it looks suspicious, out of the normal, it'll block it. It's a temporary block. It's relative. And Darren, you can maybe speak to it as it happened to you. It's pretty easy to, either get a text or a call. Yep, this is legitimate. They'll turn it right back on. We actually have some controls on our online banking where you can, turn your card on and off, at your own discretion. And then there's a lot of other layers too with online banking. We have some restrictions as far as how much money you can externally transfer out. So someone, if they hack in, they can't just transfer a bunch of money to their own account. There's layers to that. There's verification processes that take time. And again, it takes time because it buys us time to catch things. And so why it is easy for money to move in and out fast, there's layers that we have built in here. We have we're trained on our staff here to look for certain things, whether it's a check you're bringing in, there's a laundry list of things they look for to make sure, maybe it's fraudulent. Our personal banking staff does hours and hours of education every year, just learning on the common scams that we look for. And so, yeah, sometimes it may be looked at as an inconvenience, but it really is just for your protection. So obviously we want to protect our customers and our assets the same. So, yeah, you're 100% right, Darren. That's they're out there, but it's for a good reason.
And Maureen, I guess in the big picture and dealing with a lot of these things, would fair advice be to just approach a lot of these things with a healthy amount of skepticism when you see these things pop up on your computer, online, or through the mail, or in any way, shape, or form?
Very, very definitely. We really talked about not clicking on everything. If you're going to click on something, it's going to be a source that you have utilized. Like sometimes we send things out from the bank or whatever, and it's the newsletter from the bank or something like that, and we'd have a place to click on. You can do that, but if you don't know, like that Microsoft thing comes up, yeah, Microsoft immediately makes you think of your laptop or whatever. But did you sign up for that? I mean, is that something you actually are doing? You got to be really cautious. Facebook, clicking on things, and that one, I will be honest, sometimes it just kills me that I want to click on it, but what it's doing, I can click on it and it can be putting malware on my phone, which then can be connected to my banking and whatever. So you gotta be a lot more cautious about those things. And if you have a question about it, if you don't know, before you click on it, Google it, find out who to call. Sometimes there can be things that come from the bank and it says, oh, Maureen Yahr sent this to you and she works at Decorah Bank and Trust, and there's a phone number that you're supposed to call, or there's something you're supposed to click. Call Maureen Yahr and go, did you send me this? I mean, because and they test us here at the bank all the time on stuff like that. And so then we'll Google and see. Actually, Dallas, you had a situation with that just today.
Yeah. I mean, we see it's day in, day out. And I think the big thing too is you have to turn off the Midwest nice. We all have that nature to just want to trust people and not be rude, when you get those phone calls or those attacks. But in the reality of today's world, you kind of got to turn that off. And again, to your point, Darren, you just got to question it. If you're not sure, hang up, don't open it, reach out to us directly off of a number, you can get to us, not directed from them. So, yeah.
And Dallas, other than what we just mentioned, are there any other ways to avoid fraud besides not being online, which is often tough to do in today's
and there's a lot that's not online.
Really the big thing, you can't put the blinders on, you know, to your point, Darren. Almost everybody nowadays, you're going to go online. You're going to, you very well could fall victim. I bet everybody knows somebody that has or has been personally. Really, early detection is key, you know, monitoring your accounts. You know, one of the luxuries of technology is now you can go on and check your bank statements 10 times a day if you want. You know, you don't have to wait for the monthly statement to come, you know, where there's been fraud going on for 20 days on your account, but you didn't see in your statement. So monitoring your stuff is big, you know, because obviously the earlier you catch it, the quicker you can shut it down, and hopefully easier it is to get your money back. So that's a big one. And then, yeah, I already mentioned it with the not being, you're questioning things, not being the Midwest nice, you know, and really just educate yourself. There's gotten to be, and it's not just our financial institutions, a lot of institutions are doing this. Law enforcement, as I'm sure, you know, we've seen public releases a lot recently from them. Read them. You know, it's all it is power. Your knowledge is power to yourself to know what's going on, what's the common scam. So educate yourself, monitor your things. If you fall victim, you know, reach out. You know, that's really the main things to take away. And again, and no matter what you do, you're never going to be able to hide yourself from it completely.
I think a couple of things too. If you're on the phone with somebody or they're giving you instructions and they go buy gift cards and send them to me, why would anybody be buying gift cards for somebody? I mean, you got to kind of think some of those things through. Or, you know, I'm going to send you extra money and then you send me money back. Well, that's actually money laundering. They're trying to get illegal funds through another bank and then send it back to them, and then it's clean money. And so you could actually become a money mule, which is illegal. So kind of question them. The other thing they'll tell you to do is, oh, mobile deposit it or take it to an ATM. You know, those people at the bank, they're always asking questions. You don't want to, you know, go through them. We're asking questions. They know that we know that that's not something that's legitimate. So they'll try to steer you away from your local banks and the people that can help you. And sometimes I think we ask more questions when people are depositing and things than we ever did before. But it is because we need to protect people.
And on the gift card front, unless you're a guy on December 24th running out of Christmas card ideas, that's another story on that.
There's nothing wrong with gift cards, but not when somebody you don't know tells you to get them for you.
Correct. Maureen, you brought up a very good point. Sometimes people are tentative about reporting this because they're embarrassed that they got took and they should have gotten smarter. Well, again, I think a lot of us have to get over that. And in the big picture, if you're reporting that you got scammed, you can help somebody else avoid from getting scammed. Is that the message here?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Tell your neighbors, tell your whatever, and go, oh my gosh, because that's how we learn. And there's, you know, we all make mistakes. That's just going to happen. And like I said, any one of us could be scammed. But it's just share the wealth, just share that information and what happened to you, because
Dallas,
it's so important.
Yeah, definitely the case. Dallas, anything we're missing, anything you want to add, as long as you got the forum this morning?
No, I think, again, we're just really the goal of this today and, you know, reaching out, you know, to you, Darren, is just to spread the message. We're just really trying to create awareness. And so we appreciate the opportunity, allowing us to have a conversation with you. And again, as what Mag said, you know, sharing with your neighbors, sharing with your friends, you know, be a lookout. We're trying to really ramp up our education on this. So I know if you follow us on social media, our marketing team every Friday does a fraud, you know, tips or best practices or things we're seeing. And so, again, it's just, again, you can't hide from it. So just educate yourself on it. And again, know your resources and your outlets. Right. And that's, you know, we can be that, your own institution, whether you're with us or not. You know, we're very spoiled to be in this market, in this area. We have friendly bankers, you know, all across Northeast Iowa. Right. That if you're afraid of something or questioning something, reach out. That's the biggest takeaway.
Go into any one of them. They're going to help you.
Yep.
All right. We thank Dallas Steffen and Maureen Yahr for discussing fraud prevention and fraud awareness this morning from Decorah Bank and Trust. Thanks for the time and thanks for the great, important information.
Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren.
Dallas Steffen and Maureen Yahr from Decorah Bank and Trust. Coming up this weekend, a fundraiser for the Waukon Wrestling Club, and here to discuss said fundraiser, the head coach of the Waukon Indian Wrestling team, Mason Berns. And Mason, sounds like you got a fun event coming up this weekend. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, we do. It is an event hosted by the Waukon Wrestling Club. It was made up of a committee of about 10 people, and it's made of raffle tickets. You can win a bunch of local prizes. Grab some food. So it's really a fun, relaxing event for the entire community and the wrestling community.
And tell us about how people can get involved, purchase tickets, etc.
So we probably have about 100 to 125 tickets in packet of tickets in circulation right now. So really, if you ask anyone involved in the wrestling program, they're going to have a lead to a ticket. However, if you want to show up May 6th at 4:30 at the door, we'll have tickets available there for you as well to purchase at the door. It'll get you a meal from the pork producers and a last second entry into the raffle itself. And we'll start pulling tickets around 5:30. So,
and a meal and a chance to win some great prizes. That's always a fun part of the evening. What else will the evening entail coming up on Saturday?
So, like I said, we'll start pulling tickets around 5:30. There'll be some silent auction items sitting out there. It's kind of our expectation. People start kind of trickling in. They sit down. A bevy bar will be open. They'll grab a sandwich. They sit there, converse, relax, let the kids play around outside a bit. The weather's supposed to be beautiful. And we'll just kind of see how the night unfolds. We can end it soon, or we can draw it out for a ways. It just all kind of depends there. So,
and where will this be held?
This will be held at the Waukon Banquet Center in Waukon. It'd be by the old Mulligan's building. So, yeah.
And what are you raising funds for? What is the ultimate goal of expanding opportunities for wrestling in the Waukon community?
So first and foremost, we want to just create more opportunities for our kids. We have higher participation rates. We have girls wrestling that was sanctioned last year, so we have higher participation rates there. So the issue we're starting to run into is we're limited on space. So the Waukon Wrestling Club decided, we can help there. Let's try to get a different space. So really their big goal is they want to get their own space off-site so that youth kids can come in at a reasonable time and go home at a reasonable time. When you work with the school district, you only have so many spaces you can go, and that really limits the time during the heart of the wrestling season. So I'm just very grateful that this group of people wanted to help out there, because I want kids involved and I want parents involved, and this will continue helping that. So,
are there any plans of another space right now, or is this kind of a thing to get this discussion off the ground?
There is plans and action behind the scenes. Okay. I cannot disclose too terribly much. Okay. That's how those things work. But I'm going to say if we have a good showing here, it is going to be 100% worth it, and it will benefit everybody involved. I think we're in a really good position here, but we need a really good turnout on Saturday. So.
And obviously, the last couple of years for your program, definitely moving things in the right direction. A couple of conference champs, a few state qualifiers. Girls' side has been pretty strong for you in the early years of girls wrestling. As the head coach of the program, I'd imagine you're happy with where things are, but you're excited for the future as well.
Oh, absolutely. Every day you wake up excited with new ideas and new possibilities. And as more people have really joined our program, from our girls coaches to our youth coaches, everyone's just excited to continue to grow wrestling and Waukon. It's a really exciting time.
And as a Waukon native who starred yourself in that wrestling room and on the mat of Waukon High School 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer, but how much pride do you have of bringing that excitement to a program that gave you so much way back in the day?
It's important. It really is. I think that's what's kept my heart in it 100% of the way. As you grow up, you start to see the investments that other people made in you, and maybe you weren't as aware of it at the time, but now you see its true importance. And when you see that really motivates you to give back to the young people in your community. That's what keeps you driven, I think, as a coach and as a collective whole. So.
And what age did that realization hit you, knowing the fact that, yes, wrestling is such an individual sport, but the support of so many people let you do what you did on a mat? What age does that finally hit you? I think it's probably similar to a lot of us as we grow up.
I don't know the specific moment. We had a couple trying years, trying to get our participation up, and you just start to realize it's a big platform, and it's a lot more important than you think it is sometimes. 50 years later, guys will sit in the coffee shop and talk about their high school coaches and their memories. And to me, that can be scary, or it can be a really positive thing. So when I started to think about it in that terms, it's like, you want to know those athletes you helped have those positive conversations, and that you help them be better people down the road. You know what I mean? And they realized it too. So
anything we're missing as particularly about the fundraiser this weekend, or let's give us one final who, what, where, when, and why about the fundraiser coming up at the Waukon Banquet Center on Saturday.
Okay, so the Waukon Wrestling Club, and I should add, it was with affiliation of the Goodfellas Riding Club. They are a big deal in our community. They support so many people in so many different avenues, and that's who they reached out to right away. So it is Waukon Wrestling Club and Goodfellas Riding Club. So we're very grateful for their help. It is May 6th. Doors open to the general public at 4:30. Tickets will start being pulled at 5:30. So you can do last second raffle ticket entries. Bring the whole family. We'll have the ice cream truck out front, pork burgers inside, and everything available there. So.
And it sounds like a fun night for a great cause to grow a great sport in a great community. Mason, we thank you for taking the time to tell us about this fundraiser coming up on Saturday. Best of luck with the fundraiser, and keep moving Waukon Wrestling in the right direction.
We greatly appreciate the support.
Mason Berns, head coach of the Waukon Indian Wrestling Club. The Waukon Wrestling Club coming up this Saturday, a fundraiser at the Waukon Banquet Center. Doors open at 4:30. And now for a monthly conversation with the city manager of Decorah, Mr. Travis Goedken. And Travis, a lot of things got discussed this week at the Decorah City Council meeting. First of all, road dieting on College Drive, coming soon to a driveway near you. Tell us about it.
That's right. So road diet's common phrase used to explain 4 to 3 lane conversion. So the section of College Drive north of the bridge there up to North Street, Locust Road, that was heavily discussed during the Quick Start site plan as to how to create turn lanes and as part of that traffic study. So coming this summer through a restriping effort only at this point will be a 4 to 3 lane conversion. Basically, there will be one straightforward travel path and a center turn lane used to take a left. And these are fairly common across the state of Iowa. It's a push that the DOT's been making for the past several years. And so this should be a concept very familiar to a lot of residents here. But just to make sure that we'll do some educational efforts, try and make that transition as easy as possible, and look to implement this after the school ends their season.
Will this be a permanent change, a temporary change? What will it be?
We anticipate it's going to be a permanent change. However, we do want to start off first with striping only, not remove any kind of hardscaping, no concrete removals as part of it. So if it doesn't end up going as planned and as it should work out, we can always revert back through changing the striping again. However, practice does show us that our traffic counts do not suggest otherwise, that a 3-lane conversion won't work just fine for that stretch of College Drive.
And what brought this on, and would it have happened without the Quick Start discussion?
Would it have? Very much could have happened without the quick star discussion there, but that there's no doubt that expedited a bit, brought to the forefront. That Corey Street intersection with College always has been tricky with the retaining wall there by Dixie's. And so even before my arrival, the city was kicking around the idea of making Corey Street a right turn only entrance onto College Drive, just because you have to creep so far into the intersection to see around that wall. So this is actually a solution that's going to address turning into Corey Street or into the Quick Star site plan, whether it be from northbound traffic or southbound. It'll make that turn a lot easier for individuals, or even crossing straight across. If you're coming across Iowa, let's say you wanted to enter the parking lot right now for, what would it be? Pizza Ranch there?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So if you want to come straight across, you're crossing 4 lanes of vehicle traffic. This will bring that down to 3. So same with taking a left-hand turn. Now you're crossing fewer lanes of traffic. It should help address a number of crossing issues there.
City has established an urban forest utility. Why?
Mm-hmm. So there's a number of reasons why, Darren. As part of the discussion last night, we pointed out the city averages, even taking capital expenses out, for like a bucket truck for equipment, even taking out that type of purchase, we're still averaging about $120,000 a year operationally over the last 5 years. And that includes a year of zero for some expenses with COVID. But we got about $120,000 a year we spend on the city's tree canopy, whether it's not just planting new trees and removing trees in the boulevard, but the city forester, the yard waste site, that alone averages over $25,000 a year for operational costs for us. So largely it's to help cover those costs. And also as a result of changes in property taxes, which as this airs, I'm sure the House will either be considering or already have voted on a bill that's going to again change property taxes as we know it moving forward. So as that keeps getting eliminated and commercial backfill eliminated, we did need to come up with a different revenue source to help cover these costs.
And how much will people be charged through this forest utility?
Mm-hmm. So residential properties will see $3 a month as part of this utility on their utility bill.
And is that whether or not they have trees in the boulevard? Are you going to get charged more if you have trees? Are you going to get charged at all if you don't have trees? How does that all work out?
Nope, this is a flat fee, if you will, attached to the utility bill to help cover the community's cost of all publicly owned trees, whether you get to directly enjoy a tree in front of your house in the boulevard, or you get to enjoy the trees in Phelps Park or other public properties. This is meant to cover the cost of all public trees.
Is that fair?
Fair is a subjective question there, Darren. I'm not one that gets to weigh in on that.
Very much so. When does the fees get enacted? When will the city start collecting these fees?
Mm-hmm. July 1 is when those will go into effect.
And speaking of fees, you'll making some adjustments in the water and sewer rates. Third readings of those were passed last night. When you pass the third reading of an ordinance, when does that ordinance go into effect?
Typically ones like these, we try and coincide those with the start of our fiscal year, which is July 1. That way, any changes are able to be measured within that full fiscal year of reporting. So all of these will be adjusted July 1.
Another matter of discussion last night was related to the VA clinic that will be constructed, I believe, in Decorah, and the tax abatement and tax increment stuff related to that project. Inform us more on that.
Yes. So The vet clinic, VA clinic that's being built up off Park Street, the site plan's already been considered and approved by council. This is a commercial enterprise, so it's actually a private development that will then be leased back to the VA. What that enables is it will generate property tax. If it's a VA-owned property, that's not the case. So the development agreement would take the portion of property taxes that are eligible for TIF, that's an often, tax increment financing. We will then reimburse the WSSA Decorah, that's the investment group building the VA. We will reimburse them for the cost of the public infrastructure they're putting in the ground, not to exceed $550,000. We do estimate, based on what their taxable value is believed to be, that should be recovered in about 5 years.
And this is, as you mentioned, a unique partnership because if it was just a VA clinic, you couldn't collect any property taxes off that, but it's a private entity putting up a VA clinic, and from a financial standpoint, that's more of a benefit to the city, correct?
Absolutely. This is a great win for the city here. It's a private commercial enterprise, which generates property taxes and lowers the burden on residential properties and other existing properties here in town, but also the benefit of having federal government jobs here in Decorah and a service, obviously.
I asked this question of Superintendent Cronin last week. I'll ask you from the city perspective this week. What's the latest in the chat between the city and the school district on a potential site for an elementary school?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Darren. There's still a lot of conversations happening at the staff level. Based on that joint work session that was done with the school and the county, school and the city council, staff is moving forward on a path to find new locations for the tennis courts and the ball field, with the expectation that once that is done, the council is supportive of a new John Klein Elementary being built just west of the existing footprint. So that's what staff is working on at this point. A couple different paths forward on new locations for tennis courts and ball field.
And I know when you're dealing with potential new locations, you can't really say too much about what you're looking at, to be fair, right?
That is correct, Darren, because if I tell you where we're looking at, that price of land just went up, didn't it?
And I don't want to put you in that position, or the taxpayers, quite frankly. And as this will air coming up tonight, you got a community leaders forum at City Hall. Tell us about that.
Yes, so the Community Leaders Forum, that's a result of the sustainability plan. It's Mayor Borowski and Sustainability Chair Jim Martin Schramm put that on together once a quarter. And so tonight, on Thursday, we'll be talking about, I'll primarily be talking about the state legislature and property tax reform and a couple of other bills that have been approved this year. And Dr. Cronin will also be on site to talk a bit more about the school's efforts, primarily the new John Klein facility.
And I believe recently the council had a work session discussing a potential new location, I believe, for a fire station in the City Hall complex, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Where are those discussions at right now?
Yeah, so they are in a bit of a holding pattern at this point. And while a new location isn't necessarily something that's being considered by council, I do think the general consensus is its current location. The big question mark at this point is what is to come of either the administrative offices, because most of the remodel considerations of the existing facility would actually displace Parks and Recreation, City Administration, City Clerk's office. And so there's a lot of considerations that are going to be had on that front, but I don't want to say they've stalled, but it is kind of a holding pattern right now. We want to get a couple things figured out as it relates to the state legislation and how we'll be able to move forward.
One interesting thing you brought up at the council meeting the other night, I know a concern has been brought up that Decorah has too many Airbnbs and short-term rental properties, and it's a concern that's been talked about for a few years now. And it's very interesting that even if you wanted to take care of that problem, you can't. Why?
You know what, Darren, you're leading me into great segues. I even have a Post-it note right here that said, Airbnbs, no regs. So I want to point out the city is participating in the Rural Housing Readiness Assessment. And as part of that was a survey sent out where you could participate digitally. We had 666 participants. I don't know if that's a lucky number, good enough. I mean, it's a decent response rate, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I might want a different number. Overwhelmingly, though, the results of that survey were comments of Airbnbs need to be capped. There needs to be limits on how many Airbnbs an individual could own. All kinds of discussions on restrictions and caps, specifically on those short-term rentals. That is actually prohibited by state law. Cities cannot adopt any ordinance, regulations that would put restrictions on Airbnbs if it is in a location that any residential use is allowed. So this is, it's a issue that Decorah leaders we know exists, that Airbnbs are putting a stress on the housing supply, but unfortunately we can't legally put caps.
How long has that been on the books in Iowa?
About 4 or 5 years, if I remember correctly. Actually, you know what? It might not even be that long. Yeah, it might only been three years.
So it's kind of, as long as Decorah has been dealing with this issue, Decorah has probably been dealing with it a touch longer than that. They really don't have the power to do anything about it under state code, and that's just kind of an interesting thing. How do you balance that awareness of that cutting into the housing stock, but at the same time, you're powerless to do anything about it?
So you're right, Darren. A lot of this is education to make sure people understand that it's not city leaders just ignoring pleas for putting caps in place, or even city leaders loving the fact that Airbnbs are being converted from single family homes because we love the hotel motel tax revenue. It's very much our hands are tied. Now, I will say there's potential light at the end of the tunnel. There was a bill considered and made its way through the second funnel actually this year in the legislative session that would allow for cities of our size to put regulations in place on Airbnbs. This would, it would still prohibit the Des Moines and the Waukees and other large communities from doing anything.
Anything else you got up your sleeves as long as you have a forum this morning?
You kind of took my thunder there with your interview questions. The largest part was the Airbnbs. I wanted to talk about that. And, we'll have more to discuss once I'm able to look at this amendment that was passed out of the Senate today and is over to the House for consideration under House File 718. But I'm sure we'll have more trimming to do in next year's budget.
And if by Thursday night, if all gets passed, I'm sure you'll have a lot of things to discuss with those that attend the community forum coming up tonight.
That is correct.
All right, Travis, appreciate the time and the information and the knowledge as always. Look forward to talking to you in the month of June already coming up next month. Thanks for the time as always.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it.
Travis Goedken, City Manager of Decorah. Thank you to our guests on the program, Dallas Steffen and Maureen Yahr from Decorah Bank and Trust. A lot of great information about fraud prevention. That conversation, we appreciate them for joining us, and always good to have good folks at Decorah Bank and Trust, and also our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust, joining us. I want to thank Mason Berns, the head wrestling coach at Waukon, the Waukon Wrestling Club, with the fundraiser Saturday night at the Waukon Banquet Center. Doors open to the public at 4:30, and the festivities will get underway at 5:30 with the raffle. There'll probably still be a few tickets available at the door, but get your tickets from anyone associated with the Waukon Wrestling program. Always interesting to talk to Decorah City Manager Travis Goedken and all the stuff that's going on in the city of Decorah. Don't forget, we put these shows on YouTube each and every week. We realize you're busy. Got a lot of things going on. You can't always be near a radio or a streaming device at 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. So we want to give you these conversations on your schedule. If you're out gallivanting on YouTube, just go to 5-4 R-Town, 5-4 R-Town program. That's a good way to search it that way. We also put these up on the LA Communication Radio Station Facebook pages, including 94.9 and 99.1 The River, Hawk Rock 100.5, 104.7 KVIK, and don't forget, Bluff Country 103.5 KNEI. Another way we connect you to the community via LA Communications. Thank you to our guest. Thank you to our fine sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust, which included two of our guests today. And most importantly, we thank you, that's right, you, for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching our town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.